This is the 2022 Royal Enfield Classic 350. It produces about 20 horsepower and it weighs around 430 pounds. So it's not exactly powerful and it's not exactly light. So the question is it any fun? So starting with the engine, it's a 349cc single. One of the best things about it is the feel of the motor. When you sit on it, start it up and rev the engine, you can feel that little single going, and it has a lot of character. When you let the clutch out and rev it out, it has a really good and I'd say surprising snap. It gets off the line easily, and at the bottom there's plenty of torque to get you moving. If you open up the throttle too much, give it a handful, it peters out pretty quickly. But again, it has 20 horsepower. Fueling can be a bit abrupt, so on-off throttle can be a little bit jerky, which is maybe not ideal for beginning riders, but you can quickly get accustomed to it. It's a 5-speed gearbox. I would say shifting between first and second gear, particularly at low RPMs if you're short shifting, is a little rough. I never was able to get a really smooth shift with it, but the feel of the gearbox itself is really good. In terms of suspension, we have a preload adjustable suspension in the rear, non-adjustable in the front, and it is quite softly sprung. Even going over crests of roads, you can bottom it out pretty quickly. But in general, for city riding, it's comfortable and unintimidating a ride. I unfortunately didn't get to do a lot of twisty roads. I can't really say how it handles through the twisties, but it is maneuverable, it's easy to turn around on, and it has a low center of gravity, so it's pretty confidence-inspiring. One of the things that helps is that it has a low seat. One of our testers here was 5'4", and with a low seat on it, she was able to flat foot. Even in the standard trim, most riders will have no trouble touching the ground, but it also has a generous enough rider triangle that taller riders can be comfortable all day. So braking ultimately lacks a little bit of feel. The lever can be a little bit squishy, and if you're really bearing down on the brakes from full speed, you run out of power pretty quickly. But for city riding, it's totally acceptable, and there's not so much bite that you're going to be intimidated if you're a new rider. One of the nice things about the engine, in addition to the feel, is that it's pretty, it has really minimal vibes. You can ride it all day. I wish there was a tachometer so I knew where I was in the rev range. I would say in sort of the meat of the power band, it's a little bit vibey, but nothing to really detract from the enjoyment or pleasure of the ride. Talking to Royal Enfield's North American president, it was clear that the intentions for this bike is to appeal to new and younger riders. They've really identified that demographic as the demographic that our industry needs. And they think this bike is a great one for it. There's a tremendous overlap between what works in India and what they believe can work in the States for younger riders. So to that end, this is a bike that works for cities. That's its goal. And it is a pleasurable motorcycle to ride. It's unintimidating. It's pretty comfortable. It's hardy. They say built like a gun, right? And it does feel like that. No plastic. It's all metal fenders, metal tank. It feels solid, and it feels like if you leave it outside in the winter, it's gonna come out on the other side okay. So why this bike versus, say, a more performance-oriented single-cylinder, small displacement motorcycle? A lot of it comes down to that feel, and a lot of it comes down to style. Here in Savannah, it's gotten so much attention, really from everybody, from older people, younger people. Everyone wants to stop and talk about this bike. So I really think it captures people's imaginations, and Royal Enfield is really onto something. So they probably won't sell tens of thousands of them a month like they do in India, but there is a real niche, particularly for young urban riders. That said, if you live in Nantucket or here in Savannah, Georgia, where it's a city and you want to get around town, this is fun, it's easy to ride, and it has character. So to answer my question, is it fun? The answer is yes, it is fun. And at $4,600, it's also affordable.